Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Building It Up with Bertelsmann, where we catch up with leaders of startups to gain an in-depth understanding of the market they operate in, what it takes to grow a business, the challenges therein, and the future scenario. The theme for today's episode is Decoding AgriTech. Agriculture is known to be the backbone of the Indian economy, employing around 40% of the country's population. But the sector falls short on various fronts like productivity, efficiency and infrastructure, tackling some of these pain points while riding on the backbone of technological innovations is the AgriTech segment, which aims to increase yield quality, efficiency and profitability in the sector. AgriTech players are recognizing gaps in the agricultural value chain and finding ways to make improvements with the ultimate goal of increasing farmer share in profits from crop sales. AgriTech in India is projected to grow to a $30 to $35 billion market by 2025. Let's further discuss and decode AgriTech with our esteemed panelists Rohit Sood, partner Bertelsmann India Investments, Sitanshu Sheth, co-founder and CEO AgroStar, and Nukul Upadhye, who's the co-founder of Bijak. Gentlemen, welcome to the show. Rohit, let me start with you. Reports suggest that India is the third largest country in terms of agri-tech funding and the number of agri-tech startups. So what has led to this phenomenal growth in recent years, and what does the future hold?
The market over here has always been, very large, right? So the opportunity has been there. Just to put perspective, if you look at the retail market in the country, it's $900 billion. But if you remove groceries from that, we are talking about a $300 billion retail market, a space all the e-commerce companies are playing. Now look at the agri market in total. It as of today itself is more than $400 billion opportunity, right? So the market has always been there. What has changed in the last 2-3 years, are the following factors. Number one, thanks to Jio, the adoption of internet has been omnipresent, right? And then on top of WhatsApp and products like that, that has really surprised even us, how far adoption has gone into the rural economy. I think one example that I can cite specifically for AgroStar, the consumption of videos on their app has gone up by 10x in the last 12 months alone, right? So it's been a phenomenal journey, secondly, if I were to speak about, the innovation in the logistics sector, needless to say, it all started with e-commerce across the world and Amazon, being at the frontier of that innovation. But now we have the playbook, right? So for the first time, I would say, there is the capability and the confidence to build these farm to fork supply chains. And it's not easy, right? These are very perishable products that we are talking about. But I would say that this capability did not exist, more than 5 years ago. And at these trends, I think our observation is that the caliber of founding teams that are taking on problems in agri-tech has phenomenally changed over the last decade, right? And investing dollars at the end of the day are chasing, the best entrepreneurs out there.
Absolutely. Sitanshu, let me come to you now. Take us through the genesis of AgroStar. What was the motivation behind it? Also, what is the vision and mission of the startup?
Overall, we are working with a mission of helping farmers win. That is what excites us. This is what we are doing. And fundamentally, at the core of it, what is getting done here is that solving a very basic and a fundamental problem, that Indian yields from farmers is amongst the lowest in the world, translating to among the lowest income for these farmers, right? And that is a fundamental problem that we are trying to solve. And the way we are seeing this is that overall, two things which are leading to this. One is that there is a lack of information and good quality, unbiased information which is missing in the market. The second is the quality of products, which is leading to the low income and the low yield problem, right? And that is what we are doing here and solving at AgroStar. But it did not start like this. It started with a very simple thing. I was happy in my first job at KPMG. After 3 years, idea was that, look, can I do something more meaningful in life? And out of interest, I was looking for opportunities within the clean tech and agricultural space. And while looking at several opportunities, came across this manufacturing unit, which was making organic fertilizers. So that was a starting point with my job, got into manufacturing of these organic fertilizers. Shardul, who is the other co-founder and my brother, He was in the US, he was thinking of coming back, I sent him a simple Excel spreadsheet that the manufacturing unit will work at 90% capacity utilization. You will make more than your dollar salary. Why don't you come back? And that's how he came back, joined me into this. That Excel never worked for the next 3 years. And in fact, everything that had to go wrong went wrong in what we were doing. But along the way, we learned a lot of things. We saw how rural distribution works. We saw rural retail. We saw the challenges being faced by the Indian farmers. And that's how we understood and realized that there are fundamental gaps. There are problems and challenges within content, within information. Quality of products was substandard, but massive amount of trade was happening within the system, all right? But the farmers were still not benefiting to the extent of the trade that was happening. And that is how we saw some of these challenges. Along the line, I think what was interesting was the first wave of mobile penetration was happening, and a lot of these farmers started calling us up on our helpline number of the packaging there. And that is how we started talking to these farmers, realized that a lot of them are asking us about product, around information, dosages, can they be used with other products? And that is how the idea of building a platform through the mobile came in, and from the manufacturing unit to an AgroStar platform came into being. So that's how we started off. The genesis still remains the same.
Very interesting journey there, Sitanshu, and we'll get into the understanding the platform a little later. Nukul, coming to you now quickly. Bijak has taken a contrarian approach of helping traders and intermediaries in the agri-output supply chain. You know, while startups in the other sectors followed the approach of removing the intermediaries, what led you to take this unique approach?
So I think there are a couple of reasons, Shruti. So one, the agri supply chain is much more complicated than most other sectors, right? So every commodity comes from a different region. The same commodity might come from different parts of the country during different times of the year. You have to target multiple geographies from the get-go, right? Given the fragmentation, given the scale, and given the complexity of the value chain, it makes a lot of sense to take a more collaborative approach. You're going to need all the help that you can get, right, to create a massive impact. So first reason, I think, was that we wanted to, take help from all the existing value chain participants. Second, the supply chain, of course, there are a lot of issues, and, there are a lot of shortcomings there. There's lack of transparency, there's lack of accountability, but overall it does its job well, right? So it has evolved over centuries, and even during lockdown, we again saw the proof that the unorganized sector proved out to be very, very resilient, even more resilient than most institutions that we can think of. So that's second. And third, I think, the participants in the value chain have built domain expertise over generations, right? So a typical trader does just one commodity or even one particular variety of commodity, and his family has been doing that for 3-4 generations. So they have amassed a lot of intricate details about the trade, understanding of how things work, ability to evolve fast. So it made sense to actually try to leverage them rather than just to bypass them, right? So if you want to create a scalable organization, you have to leverage all these skills, all this experience, and try to focus on things that the existing participants lack, and let them do the things that they are really good at or excel at.
All right. Sitanshu, you earlier spoke about your mission of helping farmers win. So how receptive are, farmers to the agri solutions that you're, offering, be it agronomy advice or agri-input products? How does the model work, and what kind of digital adoption are you seeing in rural India?
So what we are seeing is, again, a lot of learnings from our first manufacturing unit, right? Where we tried to first make something and it was very difficult to sell. And then we learned the hard way that, look, let's understand what are the problems on ground, what are the farmers looking for, what are the gaps in the current market that are not solved, right? And that is how we came to this understanding that while a lot of products and trade is happening, there are serious gaps in terms of information, and knowledge out there. And that is what the farmers are looking for. When we started off on early days, we saw the same questions pouring in our call center. That followed with our app coming in, where we started seeing thousands of such posts from farmers asking and posting pictures of what is this problem, what should I use for my particular tomato, my wheat is 60 days old, and what's the right fertilizer usage. The content problem and the questions that keep coming in is what we identified was a gap, and nobody else was solving it. And then we saw that if we can solve for the problem of information and then closely couple commerce with it and give subsequent products along with it, we could see massive impact happening on ground for the farmer in terms of the yield that they were seeing. So that is how we are solving the problem at a grassroots level for these farmers. And what this also means is that overall, the platform or the genesis remains the same. It started as a call center. We moved on to an app. We also have omni-channel stores now where product distribution is happening at a much faster rate through that. But it just goes back to seeing that entire convergence of information and product happening together, where the farmer is consuming content on the app, seeing videos, going to the stores, buying these products, and then again, 5 days later, coming and posting that I got great results, right? And that's something that we are extremely excited about. We believe that it is just the beginning, and this would amplify over the years ahead.
Okay, good to hear that. Nukul, coming to you now, we spoke about how Bijak has taken a very different approach. How has the journey been? What has been the biggest challenge in terms of execution for you?
Yeah, so I think a lot of our business depends on our ability to recommend the right trade, right? And to do that, we need to get data around what the existing trades are, right? So what's the right routes? What are the right, buyers to sell to, what commodity fetches a premium. And to do this was very difficult because by and large, the agri sector works in an offline paper pen first world, right? So it's not digitized at all. So to get the participants to adopt to digital means, to trade, to pay, to transfer money, that was, I think, difficult. And we had to think about the product in a very different way, right? We had to adopt to the current style of working of our users rather than, building something and asking them to adopt to it. The second thing was around building credibility for them, right?
Yes.
So the challenge there was to consistently deliver on the value prop for a long duration of time so that people start trusting you enough to actually move, to actually take the most important decisions of their business based on your recommendations.
Okay. Clearly, both of you, Sitanshu and Nukul, both of you have clearly overcome and are overcoming challenges that you face and, focusing on what your consumer needs are. But, before we slip into a short break, I quickly wanted to know how the both of you unwind.
I love cooking and I love to cook with my kids, 8-year-old and a 3-year-old. We try and cook up salads and pizzas over weekends. And whenever we get an opportunity, that is surely one of the things. And the second one is now watching movies with kids. That's the second thing that we look forward in terms of taking a break.
Wonderful, wonderful. Nukul, I know you're a classical singer.
I did try learning classical music for some years, quickly pivoted with my board approval, which was the family back then, to focus on being a good listener rather than being a good singer. Based on the results over the years. So now I'm in a position where I can appreciate great music, but that is that, and that helps me unwind.
Welcome back to this special episode of Building It Up with Bertelsmann, where we are discussing and decoding AgriTech with Rohit Sood, partner Bertelsmann India Investments, Sitanshu Sheth, co-founder and CEO AgroStar, and Nukul Upadhye, co-founder Bijak. Sitanshu, let me start with you. You are planning to expand your brand from being a content-driven advisory and agri-inputs e-commerce platform to being an omni-channel platform with the rollout of AgroStar branded stores. Today, I believe you have over 1,000 physical retail touchpoints for farmers. You have plans to scale over 5,000 AgroStar branded retail stores. By when do you hope to achieve this? And if you could tell us more about AgroStar's plans for the future.
Along the way, we've seen that entire rapid growth happening where the 10x growth in terms of content or video consumption happening. We've seen over 55 million YouTube views of some of our agronomy videos happening. So it's all amplifying, and it's playing out because of, again, trying to solve for the problems on ground. And similarly, you mentioned about our omni-channel stores. That also goes back to understanding that some of these existing retailers that have been selling these agri inputs, there is a need where all of them also want to get digitized. They want to get the pie of the rapidly growing online market. And that is helping us onboard them as our franchisees, take up AgroStar stores, make them enabled with content agronomy, and then help serve their farmers through AgroStar. And that is helping us in rapidly scaling the stores also. So that's the way we are looking at it. That it is just, again, going back, solving for the problem and coming up with Indian solutions that eventually help a farmer improve their yields and eventual income.
Okay. Now, let me quickly come to Nukul. You know, in the last 2 years, Bijak has witnessed rapid growth, having scaled to 600 regions across 25 states and facilitated trade in over 100 agri commodities. What lies ahead for you, and what's your vision for the future?
So I think the way we look at what we want to do and what we are doing is, to be able to remove friction points from a trade, right? So till that happens, you are not able to give the grower or farmer the confidence to switch crops. You can, he might know that Y crop is better than X given the water requirements, but to be able to switch to Y, he needs some predictability in terms of what are the prices he would get and would there be enough liquidity. Now, to solve for these friction points, we started with trust deficit as the first friction point. We quickly realized that, to get more trades done, you have to solve for their logistics challenges, the challenges around financing, around credit. So we recently launched logistics services to, help people supply to regions where they used to never supply to, given the constraint around goods movement. We also launched a financial services arm recently, which provides credit and working capital to these value chain participants. We also are seeing great interest in our global platform where, growers for the first time exporters are coming to the platform to, export cash crops outside India. And all this ties together to actually increase the final realization that the farmer has.
All right. Rohit, one final question to you. The government has a vision to double farmers' income. Do you think this can be achieved on the back of technology and operational efficiency that AgriTech promises? Also, what needs to be done at both macro and micro levels to boost the sector?
Tech will play a critical role. See, if we talk about farmer incomes, there are 3-4 things where, AgriTech startups can play a pivotal role. We have already covered 2 in detail. We have touched upon, how we can increase productivity, which is critical. We have spoken about market access, discovery of, better demand points, better trade terms, and so on. That is also critical. There are 2 more that I would like to point out, where, companies are playing an important role. One of them is, switching to high value crops. And Nukul just mentioned it. It is not easy to switch one to the other. If we track back, the progress made over the decades, we have become a self-reliant country as far as, food production and consumption is concerned. But what that has led to is, over-indexing on crops like wheat, cereal, grains, which, if my numbers are correct, is 70% of land under cultivation, while that gives only 40% of value at the food side. And if we talk about how high-value crops like fruits, vegetables, fibers, less than 20% of land under cultivation goes over there, and that also gives 40%, of value. So clearly, we need more and more farmers to make this shift, and only tech as well as data and digitization is going to lead us there. So very hopeful over there. It may be slow, but it's definitely a And finally, I would say, we also suffer from an issue of overemployment at the farm level. With AgriTech startups, we are creating more employment opportunities at the farm gate level, be that in sorting, grading, processing, and so on, which we believe will result in right sizing, at the farm level and directly and indirectly lead to increasing of the farm income. So again, optimistic.
We are seeing a lot of M&A action also in the sector. With the recent fundraise, I believe AgroStar is also looking to make some acquisitions. Sitanshu, is inorganic growth the way forward for you?
Yes, absolutely. So as even Rohit said, right, I think what we're seeing is that there is lots happening. We built a strong platform. There is technology built around it. There is a lot of data around these customers, which is there. And can we help these farmers actually sell the produce at a higher, better rate? And with that, we are looking out for opportunities where we can help our existing customer derive more value. So yes, we are looking for like-minded entrepreneurs that believe in this space, that have built something interesting, and that can help us in terms of extending our value to our customers. So we are looking out for opportunities which are inorganic as well.
Okay, we'll surely be keeping a track of that and wish you the very best. Many thanks, many valuable insights there from Rohit Sood, Sitanshu Sheth and Nukul Upadhye. Thank you, gentlemen, once again for joining us on the show. And with that, it's a wrap on this episode of Building It Up with Bertelsmann. Thank you for watching.